Right, let's go right back to the very beginning. Sarah, tell us about how this project started. Tell us about the seed of it.
Well, so we wanted to do a project about young people, and I knew that I was very far from that experience, and that the way to do it was to build it with young people and a creative team. So Lucy Pardee, who's a casting director, who's worked with Andrew Arnold and all sorts of people, worked with a woman called Jessica Straker, and they went out and did lots and lots of scouting at schools, and we all sat in schools and watched and researched and met lots of young people. We invited them to workshops, and the ones that stayed the course, the ones that really blossomed over the process are this lot. And then Teresa and Claire, who were there from the beginning, were coming up with story ideas and concepts, and they can tell you more about how the story evolved.
Mm-hmm. Let's go over to the writers then.
So we were in schools and youth clubs and dance classes and stuff for ages, observing the girls and sort of like being aware of what it was like to be that age and seeing how those friendships developed. So as much as it kind of went down from maybe 60 to like sort of whittled down to the final 6, as we were writing, we were picking up on those friendships and writing something about what it was like to be a girl today. And we tried quite a few different angles, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. And then we kind of went back to the drawing board, and Teresa gave us the narrative that you now see today, and that's what we turned to a script.
So Teresa, tell us about where that came from.
So I had been working on something to sort of honour my sister, who was everything for me that Rocks is for Emmanuel, and also understanding that I think a lot of black girls, black women grow up in London that way, especially if you're first generation born, in terms of just the responsibility. We're often told, you've got to work harder than your peers, you've got to be better because there isn't room for mistakes. And also we sort of experience, I think, the world slightly differently, where we don't necessarily have we don't necessarily face the same encouragement or the same support from teachers. I was told, even though I'd never gotten a B in my academic life, to make sure I have a plan B, to have backups because I probably wasn't going to get what I wanted. So it was just sort of exploring those women who persevere, who are resilient despite of those things, who find love and who find joy, who protect each other. And that's what I wanted. Those are the women that I wanted to thank and honour. And in developing with these women, they became those women that I wanted to thank and honour. And then sharing it with them, they also had women they wanted to thank and honour. They had stories about sisterhood and about friendship. Their friendship was inspiring, and it just sort of started as a seed of something that grew into something a lot bigger and I think better than what I had in mind.
I want to talk to the cast. So tell us about how you heard about these workshops. How did you know about the film? When was the first time that you realised that this was happening, and why did you want to get involved? Okay, let's start with you.
Can I speak? Oh, you guys.
I think you can it'll probably pick you up. Yeah.
All right, cool. So Sarah Gavron and Lucy Pardee started going to our schools, and they were just observing the back of our drama classes. And I feel like everyone was just like, who are these two white women at the back of our class? This is strange, but yeah, after like 9 months?
No, it was earlier than that.
It was earlier? Sorry, after a period of time.
Not like 9 months.
Sorry, they invited us back for workshops. And then after the first workshop, Lucy was like, do some of you want to actually audition for this? And then I was just like, yeah, of course. So then after like months and months of auditioning, we were told that we all got in.
Because the auditioning was it was really workshopping and building the group, so it wasn't like the traditional audition. It was like, do you want to be part of this, is what kind of happened. And that was when you met Teresa and Claire and the whole creative team.
Yeah, like there was like different workshops. So some days we were doing group work, some days we were doing like different kinds of workshops with ladies like Dion Reed, just like exploring different things. And yeah.
In the writer's room.
And that was like one of my favourite parts, the writer's room. Do you guys want to speak about the writer's room?
Okay. So when because we wanted it to be really collaborative from the beginning, that we felt that was really important, all the way from the conception of the idea to even the editing of it, I think it's just been one big outpouring of group collective like love and resources. So when I had the story outline and I spoke to Claire about it, we then took it to the girls, and we probably spent, was it 2 days? I spent 2 days going through each story beat with them and doing different exercises like diary entries, listening to different music, and they were doing pictures, they were writing on so we had all the story beats up on the wall, and we gave them post-it notes to note our story beats, and some of them were very enthusiastic about noting. So there'd be like tons of post-it notes of like what their thoughts were, what their edits were, their corrections, their ideas, the things that they thought didn't work. And then we just rolled them all up and then took that away, and really from the very beginning it was a lot of what they had to say about the story is what I think made it to script. I hope.
How did you find the workshops then, Kosa?
Personally, it was weird, I can't lie. It was kind of, but then first it was weird because it was like, I don't know how to explain it. I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. I didn't know what I signed up for. I was just doing it because it was fun.
Right, okay.
And then when I found out it was for a film, I still did it for fun because of the people I met. Like Lucy Pardy, the casting director, she was very, she makes you feel comfortable. Do you get what I mean? So yeah, I think it was amazing.
Yeah.
What about you guys? How did you find that?
What the workshops were right. The workshops like Kosa said, like Kosa said, the workshops were fun. The first workshop I went to, I didn't know what was going on. I just went just for fun because my youth club told me to come through. So I went to the workshops. Then at the end, they were like, "Oh, yeah, so you guys are here for this film," and I was like, and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." And then we just started doing workshops, and I didn't really know where we was going. I was just, like Kosa said, I was just doing it for fun because I enjoyed it so much, and it was just positive vibes, positive energy, and all the people we met, we're still really good friends with them, and it was just such amazing energy. And it could have been just the cast, all of us we just bond we're like glue. It's not even fake or anything. It's just,
I know, I saw you in the
love.
green room.
Can I just say, when you guys say you didn't know where it was going or what was happening, that's because we didn't either. Yeah. So it wasn't we genuinely, for a long time, none of us knew what we were doing. We were just sort of figuring it out as we went along, and it was because I think a lot of the knowing what we were doing came from you guys. So we were all sort of kind of just hanging out and having fun, and then thinking maybe we should do something.
Make some money out of it, at least.
I mean, I don't know if we made money, but it's film after all. But no, yeah, I think it was a lot of discovering together, and I think I hope anyway, that's why that's where the bond came from, and that's why it feels like everybody was a part of it, because we were all just sort of figuring it out as we went along.
Mm. Did any of you have any idea of becoming an actress? I know, Ruby, you were already kind of in that world, but anybody else? No? Yeah.
All right, so I have agents in Nottingham, because I'm actually from Nottingham, wasn't faking it. But so I have an agent called the Television Workshop, and so since I was little, I always wanted to be, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be, I'd watch EastEnders, and I would want to be them on the screen, and I say, and now we're actually on the screen, I'm famous. And it's my dreams have really come true. It's with everyone on the stage right now and more off the stage, it's they've helped my dreams become reality. It's I'm on top, cloud nine. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Let's talk about the funding then, Rena. Tell us about how easy it was to get money for a project like this, which is so unusual.
Yeah, I mean, it is the most unusual film that I've ever worked on or been part of, and I think it's really wonderful, all the kind of live and collaboration, but producing it is really complicated and a little bit migraine-inducing. So, what we had was fantastic support from Film 4 and the British Film Institute early on, who have supported Sarah's previous work. So there was that belief in Sarah, and we're sort of pitching this evolving vision, and we're saying we're not sure quite what the process is, but we know who we want to work with, who we want to authentically and organically show. We've got this great spirit that we feel like we haven't seen that much in cinema, and we want to do something really exciting. We don't want to impose our voices. We want to work with these young people and make this film, and work with these brilliant writers, and Teresa, being from Hackney herself, really really brought that. So it was so wonderfully authentic, but having to we did obviously have to do a lot of work to convince, because it's not, even though we're a low budget film, it's not small change. And this whole kind of casting process, which was really extensive, seeing over 1,300 girls, and then distilling it down to 30, distilling it down to 10 to do these script workshops, and then the 5 were in the final cast. That's expensive. Yes, but on the stage here, there's 5. But so yeah,
had a long night.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, so just having to so we filmed a lot of the footage of those casting workshops. I went along to all of them that fed into the script, because it's really important to understand what this process is and what the story is, being the girls that they are. So we sort of documented a lot, and we reaped the benefits because we were filming them. The girls then didn't have any issues with being filmed for a feature film. They were used to being surrounded by adults, and we put them through so many different scenarios. I know you said it sounded like decades, the casting and scripting process, but it all fed in, and yes, so that I know the financiers are very happy with the final film.
As is everybody who's seen it. So I wanted to ask about the fact that it's made chronologically, because that almost never happens in film. So why doesn't it? And why did you decide to do it on this?
Well, we decided to do it on this because it's much easier from an acting point of view, and they're all first-time actors, and we wanted, Teresa and Claire were on set, as was Anu Henrique, who's down here, who's the associate director, and many other members of the creative team, and it allowed us to sort of gauge how the story was evolving, and these guys could say, oh, how about adjusting those beats, and the young people themselves could contribute, so we could kind of monitor the shape of it as we went, which was really useful. I know why they don't do it normally on films, and I haven't done it normally on films, because it is a logistical real challenge. We went into a school where we filmed, then we filmed there for a day, then we came out, created complete chaos, came out, we went to the estate where we filmed, went back into the school, created chaos again, came out, they were like, you're back, so that's why you don't do it, because you want to get it all done at once. But it really worked for our process.
But I would say, if you want to do that, I really recommend filming in one house. There are some films that do that, and I think that's the most efficient way. So if you want to shoot in story order, that's, But with low budget productions, that was a real challenge for us, because we were low budget, and just factoring that in, and in the beginning, fluid might sound like your friend, but actually logistically that is hard, because every day was pressurised, whereas normally you'd get, you can normally kind of order things and you don't go back. But anyway, but we're proud.
Yeah. I loved how natural it all was. It never felt forced at all. So presumably that came from the workshopping. And I wanted to ask the cast, how much of your own personalities do you think actually made it onto the screen? How similar are your characters to you in real life? Let's go to the girls who haven't spoken yet,
I think that because it was improvisation, it was really easy for us to be ourselves and our characters. We knew what we had to do, but we put our own twist on it because it was improv, and it wasn't like we're forcing it, because a lot of the things are relatable. like a lot of things that happen in the story, it's really relatable to what happens to like girls, and that's how the movie's so great, because it's so genuine and authentic.
Were there any like particular scenes that you struggled with in terms of trying to make it authentic or as natural as possible, because it was a difficult situation to talk about?
Me and Kosa's fight scene was the hardest.
Yeah, tell me about that, because that was such an emotional watch.
Because they loved each other so much and they just couldn't bear fighting.
Yeah, I found it so difficult, but I can't really put into words. I can't really articulate why I found it difficult. Maybe it was because, like, I haven't really found myself speaking to someone like that, like, let alone in their own house. So, like, to me, that's really disrespectful. But and like, as the story developed, it's kind of heartbreaking to see Rox speak to someone who really does care about her like that. So that's one reason why I did find it really difficult.
Yeah, the same thing basically, and plus that we couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
So it was just there like, okay guys, okay, stop now, stop. And we're like, all right. Sorry.
It's so musical, like from the beginning. Like there is music constantly playing. It's so much a part of the culture of these schoolgirls. How much of an influence did the cast have on the music that we eventually hear in the final film?
Well, we did lots of playlists, didn't we? So we got them constantly talking about it. I remember when I first met Teresa and Claire, I asked Teresa what music meant to her. She said everything. And I think that's true for the girls too. And they're constantly listening, and they had eclectic taste. And we really drew on that, and we evolved it with our music team to find that soundtrack, which, you know, has everything from jazz, Coco Roco, and Anu came up with that influence, and all sorts of and Afro beats, which was Afi did a lot of Afro beats. So that idea came when we were watching her, and all sorts of different ideas came from the girls and the team. And then Ray Black, wrote the end track. Yeah, who came last night. She wrote she watched the film. She's a London-based singer-songwriter, and she watched the film and really responded, and then wrote a special track for us at the end.
We see so many different cultures and ethnicities in this. So were you always like, right, we want, I don't know, Anna, for example, who owns the nail salon, to be Polish? Were you always like trying to like bring in these different ethnicities, or was that just naturally going to happen because of where you were filming and the story?
It's London.
Yeah, it's London.
This is what London looks like.
Yeah.
Despite what the TV says.
Period.
Like they just these are the group of friends out of 100 girls who they gravitated to one another. They found, like Claire put it beautifully yesterday, and she said that they're the ones who rose up like flowers. So we didn't force them together. There were 100 other variations of this group you could have seen with all different diversities and ethnicities, but they chose one another, and I think everyone who went to school in London, most of our friendship groups look like this.
We sort of take our city, I think, for granted, but we also take leaving London for granted. So why was it important that we see the girls venturing to Hastings, just completely away from their comfort zone in East London?
Well, that was a story idea, wasn't it?
We talked about that a lot, about just sort of staying in your. I grew up and still live on an estate in Hackney, and I remember the first time going to the beach, like with my mum's church, and I remember what it meant to me, and I know I just know a lot of people who've had that experience when you first leave. I know a lot of people who have never left London. So we just wanted to explore that, and Claire had similar stories and thoughts about it.
I think also, like, just visually and like just tonally for the film, it has a tragedy that runs through it, or a sad story, but we always want it to be so joyful, and then ending up there. And the day when we went to film, it was like the most beautiful day in ever. And so, you've got that colours, all that coming through as the end of the story, and it sort of feels like there's promise.
It's the hope of the world being bigger than what it feels like. Yeah, exactly. I think the vastness of the sea, sometimes being in London or live in particular lives, it can feel a little bit sometimes small, and when your world is small, everything in it seems so big and potentially so, world ending, and the idea that actually, we are little fishes in big ponds, and there's a lot to discover. I think we wanted it to feel like there is so much more for these girls beyond this, and we want young women and young people and old people who see the film to get that sense of actually there's a world beyond what seems like the world ending.
I was thinking about like people who are going to be growing up and watching this film and going to see themselves reflected in it. But I was wondering about, like, for you girls growing up, what films were you watching? Did you ever see yourselves reflected in films when you were younger?
No, actually, because I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but there's no movie like Rocks, because it's about friendship and being there for your friends, and there's no sort of like falling out over stupidness. Like usually in movies it's like over boys or over stupid stuff, but over here there was not, well, there was a falling out, but it wasn't very like it
was quite a mature argument. It was about something really deep, wasn't it?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
Like Anastasia said, it's like watching Rocks, with any other film you don't have the realism of it. It's like it's so real, it's like you can imagine that happening in real life. But any other film you watch when you was growing up, you would see stuff like unrealistic stuff. I don't know how to put it, that's the best way I can put it. But watching Rocks, it's like some scenes you're thinking, oh yeah, that could happen, that's real life. It's so real, and it's so like, it's every time you watch it, it's heartbreaking, and it's a real story in the real life, in the real world, and it shows you that I forgot what I was saying. But you get the gist,
I feel like Rocks shows that as younger people, we get a lot of responsibility that is not always portrayed. I feel like Anastasia said, we're always seeing stuff like childish stuff like fighting over boys and stuff, which is true, it does happen, but it's true, it does happen, but there's stuff like this that like happens that's hidden, that makes it seem like, oh no, they're kids, they're just growing up, when as it shows, Rocks was given bare responsibilities that she didn't have to deal with, and she didn't know what to do, she didn't know who to talk to, mostly because it's not shown, if you're in this situation, you can talk to this person, and as you watch Rocks, it wasn't like a happy ending. It was a real ending. It was genuine ending, because that's life. Yeah. Period.
Ruby, I wanted to ask you, because you do have some experience already of filming. You've been in the industry for about 10 years now or something? I'm going back to your Just William days there.
I did a few things when I was younger, but then I was like maybe 15, 16, I was like,
this is something you want to do.
That's what I want to do.
I just wanted to know about, in terms of being listened to by the writers, by the director, how rare is it for an actor to have that much influence on their characters and their scenes?
I think in things I've done before, I've always been listened to, but in this, they encouraged our voices so much, and I think it's so clear when you watch a film how much they encouraged our voices. And like they said before, all the storyboarding and everything like this, that is like nothing I've ever worked on before, and I think it's very, very clear when you watch it how much we, as a group of young people, are listened to, and like what Afi just said as well, about sometimes kids aren't portrayed to have responsibilities, heavy responsibilities like that. It's like when you grow up and you become an adult, those are the responsibilities you have, and it's very obvious that actually when you're a kid you do carry a lot on your shoulders as well, and it was very obvious.
Just wanted to add on the encouraging voices, it was mutual. I think it wasn't just us listening to them, it was them listening to us and encouraging us. There was I hadn't been on a set before, and there was one time that Sarah had asked me to note the actors, and there was a few adult actors, professional actors, and Ruby was there, and I was like, I wasn't really confident, and they weren't really listening to me because I was trying to make changes based on something that I thought would be better. And at one point, it was back and forth for a little while. At one point, Ruby just went, "She's the writer, I think she knows. Can everyone just listen?" And I felt so supported and empowered because I was like struggling, and I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I just went and stood next to her, and I was like, "There." So it was definitely a mutual encouragement, and I found my voice with these women.
Yeah, I agree. We were all. It's just such a supported environment to be in. An empowering environment to be in as well, and it just made you like, I don't know how to put it into words. It made you rise up, if that is the right way to put it. Yeah.
I feel like I'm in Hamilton now.
Yeah. That's the song I was thinking of in my head.
So you were talking about how supported you were, how empowered. There are a lot of women involved in this production, right? So can you tell us about the decisions made behind getting sort of quite a huge female crew?
Well, there's often, we all know that the film industry, there aren't enough women behind the scenes as well as in front of the camera. But so it felt on this that it really was the right thing to have women behind the camera and women who were young and connected to the worlds that these girls come from. So we kind of cast the crew in that way, and particularly went out to find female camera teams, female sound, wherever we could. And we wanted them to look behind the camera and think, I could be a writer, I could be a producer, I could be a director, or I could be a camera person, or I could be a sound person. We wanted to create an environment. We also wanted them to feel comfortable. And I've said this before, but usually I go to the women's toilets, and it's the only place where I can get away from the crew, but that was not the case here. I was surrounded by the crew. But it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, and there were sort of various ways that we didn't make our lives easier, as in that we could have cast up so we weren't licensing children. But another approach we had was that, over 1,300 girls were seen, and we cast a lot of our supporting artists from the girls that didn't get roles, who were also children, so they were underage, because in terms of a filmmaking future, we wanted those girls to see all of these roles occupied by women behind the camera, how many employment opportunities there were when the industry is really thriving in this country. So, those were kind of all fed into a kind of wider holistic approach to filmmaking we had.
We should do a shout out for Nanette, who's sitting here, who was chief chaperone. She was also a teacher at the Bookies School when we first went in, and she was someone who we really talked to all the way through, and she was there supporting us.
Instrumental.
Last question from me, and then we're going to hand over to you guys. But it was so rare that we barely see or hear from any adult men in a film. But I absolutely didn't notice their absence until I was looking at the cast list afterwards. Why was it important that they weren't really present? Claire, over to you.
I think it was the decision to make a film about girls that didn't depend on the men in their lives. And growing up, there were films about girls, but every sort of turning point was about a father or a love interest.
Yeah.
And but the boys' films that I was watching were about adventures and science fiction and doing all these amazing things. So, and they rarely have women in them, or if they do, they're a little cameo with a couple of words. So that seemed obvious to us.
Yeah.
So that was also the storyline had come up with this little boy character, and Lucy Pardee and Jessica Straker, the casting team, went out to find boys, and Anu was in a lot of the auditions, and they came back from the sort of first round, and I wasn't in that first round, and they said, there's this little boy called D'Angelo, you must meet him. And he'd done this little audition with Anu where she'd said to him, how will you cheer me up? And he said, I'll try some guided meditation. Close your eyes. Breathe in, breathe out. Anyway, and they rang me up really excited. And I met him, and he just lived in this imaginary world. And then the girls met him, and the team met him. And, you know, Bookie and him, she can talk about it, but they formed this very strong bond, and it was really a sibling bond. And there was one time where I was listening through the cans, and he was mostly very cooperative, but occasionally not. And he said, I don't want to do this. And she said, who do you think you are, Denzel bloody Washington? They were very sweet together. And his mother, Lynette, was a great supporter as well. And I just want to say, Sarah White was a great chaperone as well.
Actually, Becky, what was it like for you then, having this little brother thrust upon you for the film?
So I'm the youngest, so I don't really know how it was to have a little brother. But as soon as I met D'Angelo, it was like, this was the younger sibling I've been missing. Like, he's so honest, he's so 100, like, he's like the realest person I've ever met. He just keeps it so real. He's too real, and he's very intelligent. Like, it only took, I was trying to bribe him throughout set, like, to give him my phone. But then he realised I'm not the only person who has a phone. After a while, I just had nothing on him, but he's just so amazing. Like, I have so much love for D'Angelo. So much love.
So we wanted to shoot everything on location in real streets. We had real people walking down those streets, and we were chasing them with release forms to see that they were agreeing to be in it, because we didn't want to sort of construct anything. And we wanted the girls to feel at home. They're all from around that area. It's their streets. Teresa's from around that area, as we know. So it was just to build it into their world and go in the places they go.
But there was a huge community spirit in this film. I mean, like none that I've ever known. So right from the beginning, from development, it was working in youth hubs and schools. There were amazing teachers that have helped and worked with us. The families really helped. There were cultural advisors from the girls' families and wider. We cast a supporting artist from the community. That's, again, a lot of films will get their supporting artist direct from agencies. But for us, it was really, really important that everyone was involved and everyone really wanted to be part of the story. Even the council was really, really supportive, because there's a great desire for these stories. I feel so sad that the girls feel they haven't seen films that they can relate to, and I hope this film really changes it for other girls. But there are loads more stories, and they grow, and then we won't be having to raise this as a thing to work on.
That's a good one. If Annie was up here, she'd answer it, because she was the associate director who worked alongside me, and she joined Fable when she was young. And as she always says, it's been 3 years of my life, Sarah. Like, that's nothing. That was quick. But it did, it took 3 years from beginning to end.
Get amazing A-levels.
GCSEs.
GCSEs, A-levels.
I think we're going to carry on being young females that girls can identify with. We're going to carry on being the good role models that we are, and we're going to carry on doing this because it's now not just for us, but it's for thousands of girls, thousands of people. Like, I feel like we need to do this to, like, open a leeway, because the fact that this is kind of like a taboo is ridiculous.
So Vicky's being really modest because she just got into RADA Youth.
Congratulations. What about the rest of you? Do you kind of want to keep going in films? Is that something that you're interested in? Got other plans? What's going on?
Can I start what, mate? Oh, sorry, you got
Yes.
To be honest.
Go ahead, Sim.
To be honest, I'm just going with the flow in it. Whatever comes. But right now, let me just finish these dumb exams. And
Yeah, same as Koso. I'm just trying to pass. Same school kids. But yeah, like whoever goes to the play, and I would love to do it more. You know, maybe be on the other side of the camera. You never know.
yeah.
There's AXA, who worked at the youth hub, who found us Affy.
Shout out to
acting, but I want to be more. Like, I don't want to just be stuck to one thing. I mean, I love acting. Like, I want to be a movie star, but like, I want to be a lawyer, but I want to do singing and acting. I want to be it all. Like, I want to be someone. I want my name to be remembered for multiple things, not just for, yeah, you're an aspiring female, but I just want to be out there, famous.
Yeah, so we were looking for the right team. I was working with Faye Ward at Fable, and we'd worked together on a few projects, and she's got a team at Fable, Hannah Price and Hannah Farrell, and Annie was there, and then Amina came on board. But before that, Teresa and Claire had been on their radar as really exciting writers, and we were like, who would be a good match? And we had no idea what the film was going to be, except that it was going to be about young people, and that we wanted to make this brilliant collaboration, and we wanted to build it with them. So we started having meetings, and we met with Teresa and Claire, and they can talk about their bond, which is kind of extraordinary. I feel a bit left out. They just got on. We felt a good match anyway for the project and for us and for the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that was how the film went, really. People just, I don't know, like, it's a bit boring to say that I think we just were all just meant to be. So me and Claire talk about how when we started writing, we were in a rush to do a turnaround. So it was like, okay, you did the first 20 pages, I'll do the next 20 pages. And then I think I messaged her and I was like, oh, I've made quite a big change, but it's okay, I'll merge it when you send me yours. And she said, oh, I've made quite a big change as well. And we had both made the exact same really big change in different halves of the script. And so I think that just was, yeah, it was just meant to be. And I think because we all of us were making this film, we all beat from the same heart. And I think we just knew where we wanted to go.
What was the change?
Roxy's race. So, yeah.
And Kaisa, do you want to talk about the Somali household?
Yeah, of course. So the development of that was very interesting, I'd say, because Sarah and the art department came over to my house and just saw like how we act around, how the settings is, what we eat. And then, yeah, I think that was the influence how we created the location. And talking about the uncle, that man is a funny guy, bro. But yeah, he wasn't even meant to do all that, was he?
But that is a great joy of the organic process, because that family was sort of, there were 2 professional actors cast in the family, and then the uncle and the mother were smaller roles that then rose up and were cast by our brilliant AD team. So that was a really interesting moment where, you know, your fictional uncle really made his own moment and grew his own role.
He got up and started singing.
Well, he said, I've actually got a really good voice and I've written some songs, and now he's got a music credit. He's delighted.
There was a lot of things. It was a lot of work with music right till the last moment, but it was a new thing for me, like phoning up to clear a song or somebody that we haven't asked to singing it. We haven't booked as a proper actor. Has taken over the scene, and and then I did feel for the professional actors. But, he was a force that had to, and it was so wonderful because I recognise that uncle from my own East African family, but
Yeah, he's a funny man. Yeah. We appreciate him though, because the scene wouldn't be what it is without him. So, yeah.
Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum.
When's it not?
At points. Yeah, but not less so than usual, I would say, in my short experience.
I think it just felt like the script lived the whole time, so it was constantly being put into and taken out of, and it wasn't like normally you do drafts and you're just constantly being told what's wrong with it, whereas this was like it would always fold in and add to it. But it was stressful because it's writing and it goes on for ages.
And it was, and because it lived, sometimes we just wanted it to stop living. Sometimes we'd be on set, and I think one time I was on a holiday for a week, and then I came to set and I was like, why is that character in this shot? They were like, oh, you know, she's just sort of been there. And I was just like, she's not supposed to be. And so we were on set, like, well, I guess I'm going to change that arc. Sometimes because it lived, but what was nice was that then when we had a different idea and we'd be like, oh, Sarah, I know you think we're going this way, but we've got a new idea, and can we please just... And so it was a mutual thing. So sometimes we were responding to things that were happening on set organically with the girls and with logistics or whatever. And sometimes they were responding to new ideas that we were having, inspired by the things that we were seeing, because we were literally on set every day. So sometimes things would spark and we'd be like, well, we want to make a change. And, you know, and no matter what, even sometimes when we wanted a whole new scene, with the time being so restricted and budget being so tight, somehow, some way, like Amina and Sarah would figure out and make it happen. And then we'd be like, oh, actually, we don't want it anymore.
That was yes. Taking it all back now. No, because we had approvals from them, but it was one of the kind of riskier parts because it's a longer process with those companies, and it's part of, you know, lots of parts of the film had a very detailed approach. So, you know, that was all cleared legitimately, but just took months and months. And yes, they don't give it very often.
There were those scenes, weren't there, where you we kind of saw as if we were watching it on a phone.
Yeah.
Front. So tell us about those decisions.
So, for example, when they go into the penthouse, Sinead was filming on her phone as you know, playing her role. So Maya Maffioli, who was the editor, who, to her credit, dealt with 150 hours of footage with 2 cameras rolling all the time.
Phone footage.
Plus the phone footage. Sometimes 3 cameras rolling. And, you know, no starts to takes, no end to takes, no clapperboards. So
it's phenomenal.
Sharon Nicola, her assistant, did an amazing job and me talking, people talking all the way through every take. And a lot of laughter. So,
but we used a lot of the real sounds. Somehow,
yes, we did.
You know.
Yeah, we did. We preserved a lot of the sound due to our sound team, who did an amazing job of miking everybody up and not knowing when anybody was going to speak. So that was a challenge as well.
Yeah.
But the phone footage, just to come to that, so she got through the phone footage and found sort of what was organically there, and that got built in. Yeah.
Amazing. I think that's all that we've got time for. So please give a massive round of applause.